Hey everyone. Following up from my video not too long ago, about an hour ago, from Lively, who is seeking an extension of time to file her motion to continue sealing certain exhibits. Wayfarer have actually already filed a letter to respond to that, so let's have a look at that. Okay, this is quite a short letter. Dear Judge Lyman, the Wayfarer parties, and we all know who they are, respectfully oppose Lively's request for another multi-week extension. Respectfully oppose Lively's request for another multi-week extension of her time to seek sealing of summary judgment materials and various other motions. The Wayfarer parties filed opening summary judgment briefs more than a month on November 12th. Thereafter, Lively moved to extend the deadline to submit sealing motions until 1 week after the motions were fully briefed. The Wayfarer parties opposed that motion, citing Second Circuit precedent holding that the public's right of access to the summary judgment record cannot needlessly be delayed. The court granted Lively's motion and set open and sealing motions for December 19th, obviously today. In granting that motion, the court emphasised that it would act as expeditiously as possible to resolve sealing consistent with the First Amendment interests. At the recent post-discovery conference, the court again correctly noted the importance of addressing sealing relatively quickly, given the First Amendment issues that are involved whenever documents are filed under seal. The court therefore instructed that sealing motions should be filed on December 19th unless the parties made a reasonable request for a little bit more time, and I say just a little bit more time, keeping in mind the interests of the public. So they were quoting Lyman, who specifically said at that hearing that none of us could get into, that he expressly stated that he was open to a little bit more time of an extension, but Lively, which Wayfarer were also agreeable to, the 10 days, but Lively here is obviously taking the piss, as usual. On December 17th, Lively asked the Wayfarer parties to agree to an additional 2.5-week extension. Consistent with the court's instruction, the Wayfarer parties responded by proposing a schedule that permitted a bit more time for opening briefs while leaving the response deadline intact as follows. So their proposal was opening briefs due December 29th and then oppositions due on January 19th. So as I said in the previous video, Lively was seeking an extension for her motion that she wished to file. Wayfarer agreed to that, an extra 10 days, whilst not actually moving the time they had to respond. So it effectively reduced their time to respond. Lively's new proposal is unreasonable and unfair. It pushes back the deadline for opening briefs yet again, giving Lively nearly 2 months to prepare her sealing motions. Exactly. While giving the Wayfarer parties just 1 week to address what we anticipate will be numerous lengthy briefs. In addition, Lively's reliance on the claimed needs of third parties is disingenuous. Lively does not have a stand-in to speak for those parties, and none of those parties raised the possibility of an extension with the Wayfarer parties prior to Lively's filing. Oh my God. Again, this does not surprise me. I have dealt with her lawyers. I know what they're like. But she represented in her letter that the parties would be all in favour and they all needed these extensions. And not one of them actually spoke to Wayfarer about it. What a twat. Moreover, Lively herself is evidently prepared to proceed on the schedule the Wayfarer parties have proposed. In an email this morning, Lively's counsel asserted that Lively has already identified the majority of the items she wishes to seal. So she doesn't even need the time because she's already identified them. In her proposal to this court, Lively suggests that she will be able to provide those redactions to the Wayfarer parties by December 29th, the same day the Wayfarer party's proposed opening motion should be submitted. It is therefore unclear why Lively requires any further delay or from it, other than reducing the amount of time the Wayfarer parties have to respond to her submission. That is not good cause. Lively's motion should be denied. Again, this is from Jonathan Back. He's obviously in the same law firm as Alexandra Shapiro, so this is top-notch quality. Love it. Wow. I feel a lot more confident now that Judge Lyman has no real wriggle room to grant this. I'm not saying he won't, and I know a lot of people will be very skeptical that he will, just because Lively's asked for it. And I don't blame anyone for that view. However, he is incredibly strict on public right of access. I've seen that over and over and over again. And that includes against Lively. Lively has already had an extension. What she's asking for is another extension, which she cannot justify needing because, by her own admission, she's already identified most of what she wants to seal. She also cannot speak for third parties. I love that she is trying to do that when she told us, content creators who filed a motion to quash, that we could not speak for third parties because technically we weren't directly subpoenaed. X and you and Google were, even though it was our data, we weren't directly subpoenaed. Other companies, tech companies, were subpoenaed for our data. And Lively submitted a letter to the court saying, well, we've got no standing to, oppose a subpoena. I feel like we have had more standing in that scenario than she does here to be speaking on behalf of third parties. However, I am, someone said in one of the comments, and I absolutely 100% agree with this, to put in a footnote in the previous letter, in Lively's letter asking for the extension, Sony and WME, of all the third parties, Sony and WME also join me in this request. The person who commented said, oh, that seems like a flex. And you know what? I agree. Absolutely agree. Like, you can't get any bigger names, can you? And the other point I would make as well, which I did not make in my previous video, right, is Lively is saying, well, we've got good cause, people want to enjoy their Christmas, right? Can I just remind everyone? Stephanie Jones filed her lawsuit against Jen Abel, Justin Baldoni, and Wayfarer on Christmas Eve last year. Blake Lively filed her lawsuit against everyone on New Year's Eve last year. And that was actually the 2-year anniversary of her accepting the role of Lily Bloom. And I said in my comment, because I was responding to someone in the comments when I said this, and I actually said, to me, I don't believe nothing happens in this case by accident. I can't be convinced now that anything is from Lively side or Jones's side, that anything is a coincidence. So I find it rich that Blake Lively is, asking for an extension for this promotion. For the sole purpose of this motion is just to keep documents hidden. And she is saying, well, over the Christmas holidays, we can't be having to deal with this over the Christmas holidays, when literally last Christmas and New Year, they ruined, between her and Stephanie Jones, they ruined it for all of the Wayfarer parties. Like, are you actually kidding me? Anyway, I will come back if Judge Lyman rules on this, because I'm expecting him to do it soon, because obviously the deadline for filing this is today. So, yeah, we'll see. We will see. Okay. But all right. And if he rules on it, I'll come back. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. We'll soon see.